Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the primary weapon, the Baza Prime. Now in this weapon series, I take a weapon, I build it out, and I test that weapon on its own merits, meaning I don't mix it with any kind of external factors that would increase weapon performance. That would be things like Warframe's using abilities, pets putting statuses on enemies, things like that. I just test the weapon built out by itself, and I leave it up to the viewer to make their own intelligent conclusions about adding those external things. All right, let's go into our little Salt Prime cave here. We have the top commenter of the last video, it's Strothix. The first commenter of the last video, Silver44. And the recent supporters of Colonel Suro 6, Alfofo, and Toxic Sneeze. Thank you so much for your support. We have Andy here with the weapon we're doing today, which is going to be the Baza Prime. Let's go ahead and go down to the arsenal here. So the Baza Prime came out with Avara, or Avara Prime, I should say. And when we go over the unique things about it, you'll see that there's some like interactions that you could do with Avara with it, which is it's kind of cool. Okay, Baza Prime, unique and interesting things. First thing is that it is silent, which is kind of unique for an assault rifle, it being silent. And that combo is really nice with Avara and her Prowl, because Prowl you have to be silent to maintain Prowl. So really nice for Avara if you want to use it on her. The other unique thing about this is that it actually has damage fall off for an assault rifle, which is a little bit unique. So the fall off starts at 30 meters and it goes out to 60 meters. Now, normally I don't think this is much of an issue. Like most of your engagements in Warframe, I feel like will be within 10 to 20 meters. 30 meters is already kind of far. Like to actually start seeing your damage getting falled off, you would need to be shooting across a really big tile set, like to the other side of it, or doing like open world content. Most of the time, this is really not going to affect you. And even when it does affect you in those big tile sets, it's not going to affect you that much. The only time this may affect you more than a little would be in open world content. So I don't think you should be too like scared of this fall off. I don't think it's too bad. All right. And this is not really a unique thing. It's just more of a fun fact that I wanted to say is that this is actually tied with two other weapons for the highest crit multiplier of assault rifles at 3 times base. That's, of course, excluding some evolutions on Incarnants, because some of those evolutions can make those weapons have even higher. So, of course, the crit multiplier or crit damage is going to be your best stat because of that. If you ever get a Riven, you're looking for crit damage. If you have a flex slot on the Baza Prime, you're looking to put crit damage there, just because that is going to be your best stat. Okay, I think we can finally go over the mods now. We're going to have Galvanized Chamber for multi-shot. We're going to have Galvanized Scope for critical chance. I always check to make sure Galvanized Aptitude is either additive or multiplicative when I do a build, and it is additive on this weapon. That's why it's not included here. Next mod is going to be Primed Shred for fire rate and punch through. Prime Shred is unfortunately a login reward, and so a lot of people will not have Prime Shred. So if you don't have Prime Shred, we're going to make up for it with another fire rate mod. Let me just type in Vile Acceleration, because that's the one you'll use. So Vile Acceleration will actually give you 90 fire rate, so you'll actually even get more fire rate than you will with Prime Shred. You just won't get that punch, which does kind of suck. So when you eventually get Prime Shred, you could just upgrade your Vile Acceleration to it. All right. In this slot here, which is usually our flex slot, I guess it is still technically a flex slot, but again, like I was saying, crit damage is very valuable on this weapon. And so one of the mods that usually competes with other flex mods, Bladed Rounds, is a little bit less of a flex mod. It's more of a really good mod for this slot because it's another 120% critical damage. The only thing that maybe could compete with Bladed Rounds is if you chose to go with a blast setup on Baza, maybe Hammer Shot and Elementalist could maybe compete against Bladed Rounds for this slot, but only if you were going for a blast setup. Otherwise, Bladed Rounds wins all day long, and even with a blast setup, Bladed Rounds is still competitive against those other two. Okay, Critical Delay for critical chance, Vital Sense for critical damage, and in our 2 element slots here, we're going to be going for a viral setup. The reason we go with viral, if we look at its total damage, of course, this is not including like, multipliers and stuff like that, but its total damage is pretty obviously a low alpha damage weapon. This is a low alpha damage weapon. The best elements for low alpha damage are viral and corrosive. And so those are usually the 2 ones you're looking to put on first on a low alpha damage weapon. Now, if you have an external way to viral prime, because there are a lot of ways to externally viral prime nowadays, like you could have Nourish, you could have a Panzerwelt Phyla, things like that. Your next best option would be Corrosive, because Corrosive is really good on low alpha damage weapons. So you would externally produce viral, and then you would have Corrosive in these 2 slots instead. But if you did not have a way to externally viral prime, I do suggest viral. The other option, I think it's a little bit less of a good option because it is very low alpha, would be if you had an external viral primer, instead of going Corrosive in these 2 slots, would be going Blast. Okay? Corrosive will give you 100% will give you the best single target. But Blast can help a bit with AoE because you're going to be getting Blast procs and you're going to be producing some AoE damage as well with them. Blast is a little bit less impressive on low alpha damage weapons, but it's still decent, especially if you're getting external viral somewhere. But like I was saying, if you do decide to go Blast, you may want to consider in this flex slot, maybe Hammer Shot and maybe Elementalist start kind of competing with Bladed Rounds. So you can kind of test around there. I would probably still suggest Bladed Rounds, but Hammer Shot and Elementalist probably come pretty close though with a Blast setup. All right, so if you go viral, I do suggest going with the 160-60 on Toxin, and then the 165 cold on Primed Cryo. And it's because viral doesn't really mind getting produced in small amounts, and it's because the very first proc of viral actually counts as 4 procs. So normally all the procs of viral count as 25% extra damage to health, except for the first one counts as 100% extra damage to health. So viral doesn't mind getting produced in smaller amounts, and so you don't really need both 60-60s for viral. You can go with more damage with Prime Cryo rounds here. Corrosive, you would need to go both 60-60s, and Blast, you would go both 60-60s. Even though with Blast, you know, it's heat and cold, I would suggest with Blast going the 60-60. So, but again, if you do not have a way to externally viral prime, I do very much suggest viral on this weapon. All right, enough about the elements. Let's continue on here. We're going to have the Exila slot. You have 2 options. You have Vigilante Supplies and Primed Rifle Ammo Mutation. This weapon does have some ammo issues just because it's very low alpha, and so to kill an enemy, you need to go through a decent amount of shots, and so you will eventually have ammo issues. Now, before I did this build this morning, my build actually looked like this with Primed Rifle Ammo Mutation. And I decided this morning to put on Vigilante Supplies instead because it still gives me some extra ammo pickup, but it also enhances my critical hits. However, I didn't do testing on this, so when I do the video today, we'll see. If I start having ammo issues, you may say, you know what, Salt, you probably should have kept on Primed Rifle Ammo Mutation. But if I don't have ammo issues, Vigilante Supplies will be the best choice just because it also gives you some small extra damage. Alrighty, in the Arcane slot, we're going to be going for Primary Deadhead. Primary Deadhead is a 360% flat damage increase, a 30% headshot multiplier, and minus 50% weapon recoil. And that's it. That's how you build out the Baza Prime. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show this in about 10 minutes of Steel Path gameplay. We're going to show how this works and see what its kill count is at the very end. I'm going to be doing this on a big dumb Inaros with no Archon shards that increase weapon performance, no mods or arcanes on the Inaros that increase weapon performance, and with the pet with no sentinel weapon and no mods on the pet that increase weapon performance. Alrighty, let me stop running my mouth and we'll get into the Steel Path mod where we always do our testing. Now, when I do these runs, weapons that are average get 500 or more kills. Weapons that are above average or good would get 700 or more kills. And weapons that are more meta and really, really good would get 900 and more kills.
Their rage is vehement, their focus impressive.
Right off the bat, I'm going to think that this weapon is probably going to be in the average category. I think it's going to get between 500 and 700 kills. I don't think it'll break that 700 mark. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe the extra crit damage that this gets will kind of carry it.
I'm sending auxiliary life support.
So it's going to be weak at first until we can get our conditionals up. And we should be slaying. if I have any ammo issues and I need to use an ammo pad, I'll make sure I say so. That way you know that I've had an ammo issue, and that will let you know, all right, maybe I should have went primed rifle ammo mutation instead of vigilante supplies. I'm just trying to be greedy, and I want to see if vigilante supplies will still be fine for ammo and also just give me some little extra damage. So you're going to want to get the most value out of this weapon by utilizing its punch through that we're going to be using or getting from what's it called? Prime Shred. That's why Prime Shred is so good. Prime Shred allows single target weapons that usually can't compete against AoE weapons to start competing against those AoE weapons, because now it is multi-hitting as long as you're lining dudes up. Haven't really had any ammo issues yet. I think I've been doing pretty good on ammo. Maybe vigilante supplies is the way to go over primed ammo mutation. Your best ribbon stats on this weapon are going to be crit damage would be the top, multi-shot probably number 2, and then crit chance number 3. Crit chance and multi-shot might be kind of close, but maybe I think maybe multi-shot would be probably a little bit better. The other thing people talk about is projectile velocity, because projectile velocity will increase the fall-off range, except this weapon can't use the normal projectile velocity Exilis. It doesn't have access to it. And on a lot of forums, people are saying that you're still able to get projectile velocity in a Riven, which I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if you can still get projectile velocity on this weapon in a Riven, or maybe you can't. Regardless, I don't think it's super needed. I mean, a 30-meter fall-off is pretty good. Like, I mean, what are we fight? We're only fighting probably within 10 meters right here. 10 to 15 meters right here we're probably fighting. 30 meters is like, I don't know, like maybe like this far? Probably even farther than that. I haven't had any life support issues, which is like usually a indicator of a weapon being bad, is when you start having to chase life support on these 10-minute tests. I do suspect I will eventually have to hit a life support though, but I haven't had to chase them yet. I like this weapon. This was my main weapon on Harrow for a very long time because it's very like pinpoint accurate. And if anyone knows about Harrow, you get extra perks for hitting headshots. So I was like, oh, this could be a really cool weapon for Harrow for getting us headshots. And so this was my main Harrow weapon for a very long time. And then I eventually upgraded Harrow to the Ambassador, which is similar. It's a very accurate weapon, except it also has innate electric, which is kind of cool. And then when the Angstrom Incarnate came out, oh my goodness, that's my Harrow weapon now, is the Angstrom Incarnate. Talk about power creep, you know, unfortunately. All right, this is a pretty basic assault rifle, so I don't think this is going to do great against Misery. It's probably going to feel miserable. Let's see. Yeah, it feels like any other assault rifle. It'll kill them. It's just going to take a little bit. You can see if I get a good burst into him, it's doing some damage to him. It's just not doing, you know, as much damage as a big chunky weapon does. Let's get those. Oh, there's drones and there's a Guardian Eximus. I'm like, why are these guys so tanky? Gotta get that Guardian Eximus down.
Extraction is available if you need it.
Oh no, they got Worm Prime. That's all right. I really only use them for vacuum. and radar. Where you at, Misery? We gotta get rid of you here. One more burst into him. There we go. All right, these guys are getting a little bit clustered, and we're getting more of these Guardian Xmas, which I hate. And we're getting a little bit lower on life support. So we'll see. We don't have to chase life support yet. We're at 35%. Maybe we can kind of get lucky and get a few life supports here, but eventually we'll be chasing them. Yeah, again, I'm going to probably guess it's going to be within that 500 to 700 range. We'll see. We'll see. All right, I think it's about time for me to run and get a life support. Maybe 2. I'll hit like 2, I think.
Out of time. Consider extraction.
Yeah, when the Angstrom Incarnate came out, that became my main hero weapon. This was my main hero weapon for probably like a year. And then the Ambassador was my main weapon for probably about another year until the Angstrom Incarnate came out. Maybe this weapon will get an Incarnate one day. Maybe. If it gets an Incarnate, it should like still retain its like stealthy vibes, where it like is kind of like a secret agent weapon for Ivara. You know, maybe some kind of like a secret agent kind of an Incarnate ability. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but something that kind of like vibes with Ivara. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know what kind of an Incarnate effect you could give it to kind of retain its stealthy vibes. I was trying to think in my head and I can't think of anything, but that would be cool since it came out with Ivara. You know, it has the stealth on it already, or the silent thing. You wouldn't want to have the Incarnate like be a non-silent version. That wouldn't really make sense for this weapon. All right, we got a minute and a half left. We'll see what its kill count is at 10 minutes. I think it's doing pretty good. It's doing all right. It's just you really need to maximize your punch through. If you're not maximizing your punch through and you're literally only shooting one dude at a time, not so good. I'm gonna hit 1 life support up here, 1 more. It wasn't too bad. We had to hit 3 life supports. I've also had no ammo issues, so I think Vigilante Supplies is a fine upgrade over primed ammo mutation. Because not only does Vigilante Supplies give you some extra ammo, just like ammo mutation does, just not as much, but it also enhances critical hits, like 1 out of 20 shots. And this is a very fast-firing weapon, so you actually get 1 out of 20 shots pretty often. All right, 20 seconds left. We gotta get this kill count up. It's gotta beat the Torrid. It's gotta beat the Torrid. I'm confident. I'm confident the Baza will beat the Torrid. All right, 10 minutes. I'm gonna stop shooting. Let's head to extraction, and then we'll check the kill count. 604 kills, pretty much exactly where I was thinking. I was thinking it was going to be between that 500 and 600 mark. So this is an average weapon. It scores kind of like in that average category. Not a bad weapon to build out. I mean, you'll be happy with this weapon if this is like one of your first Prime weapons. This will definitely, you know, carry you through Steel Path. It's just not going to be as strong as some of the above average or meta weapons in the game. But you never know. Maybe this gets some kind of love from DE. Maybe this gets it in Karnan mode. Maybe, I don't know if they ever do like a rework on Avara. Maybe like this gets some kind of love with it since it came out with Avara.
Fought well. Good deaths all.
Yeah, that was the Baza Prime. Again, I suggest getting it. I suggest building it out. It's not a bad weapon. It's just an average weapon. But again, if it's one of your first primes, you'll be happy. It's fine. It's good enough. So yeah, if you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.